Hello everyone, it is I here for another What the Blank Is. And today I'm going to talk about a slippery slope logical fallacy, I think. Don't quote me on that. If it is, I will of course mark it over here somewhere.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And of course, I'm not going to tell you anything without doing the research and the proof. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, the definition of slippery slope is a course of action that seems to lead inevitably from one action or result to another with unintended consequences. All right, so that's what it says here. And then at the bottom of the same page of Merriam-Webster, it has it as a noun, and it says a process or a series of events that is hard to stop or control once it has begun, and that usually leads to worse or more difficult things. So you might be saying, what the does all that mean? Okay, so an example of a slippery slope. You see it all the time in commercials sometimes, politicians a lot of times, and just all around, and you may not even know you're seeing it. So here's an example. Well, if you let your kid fall on the floor every time he can't have his way, then pretty soon he's gonna grow up and not know the difference between yes and no or right and wrong, and then he's gonna go and then he's going to become a serial killer, and then he's gonna wind up in prison, and then all of his life will be wasted away. And you're like, first of all, you don't have any proof of none of that happening, and just because he falls out on the floor, then he's gonna be a serial killer? How does that work? Or you might have heard somebody else use one to say, oh, well, if your kids play video games too much, then all of a sudden they're going to go from Pac-Man to Call of War, and then they're going to grow up and blow up buildings and be a bomber. And you're like, all that from playing Miss Pac-Man? Bruh. That is an example of a slippery slope. It may not be a good thing. Matter of fact, you know what? Not may not. It's not a good thing to do. But like a snowball. You take a little snowball and you take it at the top of the hill, and then you roll it down, and it gets bigger, bigger, bigger. And then by the time it gets to the bottom, it's huge. All the events that happen along the way, you don't even know that that's really happening just because you have this small thing up front. For instance, they had one on the internet, which I didn't think was a good example, but okay, I'll use it. The example they had on the internet for a slippery slope was Susie has some gum in class. If she gave Tim some gum, then pretty soon everybody in the class gonna want some gum, and then she'll have to bring gum to school every day for everybody in the class. First of all, who's to say that somebody's gonna see you give Tim some gum just because? I don't understand. So I remember the first time that I heard about a slippery slope. I was actually in the 6th grade, and I had a teacher, our English teacher taught us about slippery slope, and everybody was like, what is that? What is that? And he said, well, what do you think a slippery slope is? And we were like, I don't know, it has something to do with snow. And he said no, and he explained it to us. And for some reason, out of all my teachers, I remembered him. He must have been a good teacher because he had us thinking, which is always a good thing, to think and not just to, teach to pass tests. Slippery slope. Another example for a slippery slope is if I'm a bus driver and I'm driving my bus, and one person says, I lost my bus pass, can you let me have a ride for today? And then I say, oh, well, if I let you have a ride, then everybody is going to want to ride. And then pretty soon, every day, people are going to want free rides. And then there'll be nobody to ride the buses anymore. And you like, really? From letting one person ride on the bus, then it's not going to be a need for buses anymore. But like I said, there are a lot of commercials who do this. There are television programs, movies. Matter of fact, why don't you let me know down below if you have something that you think might be a slippery slope, which is basically something that starts out small and then blows up to something big. If you heard or know of anything like that, leave it down below so other people can know what a slippery slope is. We will talk about fallacies next time. I don't have any of my videos too long. If you have any thoughts, comments, or questions, leave it down below. Don't forget to subscribe and share. And now you know what a slippery slope is. Peace.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, ay. Yeah, yeah.
And
Come